So I just added these organizations here, and if you notice something, it got removed the ones because you have marked them as the default. If you don't mark them as default, you can put as many numbers of allowed organizations here. And one thing I specifically requested to make a note of is when we were doing the adding notes about which type of organization ask you for a reorg event. I specifically mentioned that create subordinate does not ask for a reorg event. So let's say I create a location hierarchy. Okay. What's happening? It's asking for a reorg event, right?
Yes.
You populate it here and you do the next thing. I'll try to create a cost center. Again, the same thing, right? You try to create a supervisory, the same thing. But from this supervisory, if I now create a subordinate using the create subordinate task in my menu options, sorry, create subordinate, the system does not ask me for any reorganization. It's just asking for an effective date. Just enter the name, enter the type. It could be any subtype. You should not focus on subtype. You should focus on the type. I specifically I clearly recall this. I've emphasized it on so much. All these are of type supervisory. Subtype could be anything. So we are at SUPOG 1, which you created. Type is supervisory, subtype is department. Subtype could be anything you want it to be, but the type is supervisory. If I go to BVR and SUPOG 2, look at the details, type is again supervisory. Whether it's a superior or subordinate. Again, these two are terms in reference to each other, but the type is supervisory. All of the organizations in the system, whether it's a subordinate or a superior, is of type supervisory. Get that done on a whiteboard so that. Okay. The SUPOG 1.1, SUPOG 1.2 reports to SUPOG 1. Which one? Which will you call a subordinate and which one is a superior? So you all know the answer. SUPOG is a superior one. SUPOG 1 is superior. Now tell me, which is a subordinate, which is a superior? So is this a superior or a subordinate? This is also a superior and also a subordinate. But what you need to understand it, all these are of type supervisory. That is what I've been trying to explain. All these are of type supervisory in reference to each other. Like in this case, 1.1.1 is a subordinate. 1.1 is a superior to this subordinate. But 1.1 is itself a subordinate to SUPOG 1. So subordinate and superior terminologies are used in reference when we are reporting to someone, so that we can tell that, okay, this is a subordinate, this is your subordinates, this is your superior. But in the type of the organization, when we talk about, they all are of type supervisory. And within the system, supervisory organization means that there will be a manager managing this organization. Okay, so as of today, we will focus on the third core concept, which is job profiles. Now, why is job profile important? As you all know, when you are being hired in the system. So I'll walk you through a process of, I don't know if that's even set. Create job requisition. Now you don't have to focus on how it's completely set up. Just focus on the primary details that it looks for. It asks you for a supervisory organization. So let's say I use an existing organization. Okay. So we are using the supervisory organization, XPD Executive Management. Click OK. That is what I assumed. So we cannot even do this again because of the system validations that has been put by the vendor. But let's just look into it once. When you try to create a job requisition, what is the first thing? Let's say I'm doing this as a recruiter. What's the first thing the system asks you for? It asks you for which organization, for which supervisory organization you want to initiate this process. Because then that position will be opened in this supervisory organization. Let me just quickly. So create requisition is one of the process which, when initiated, requests you for a supervisory organization. When the process begins, it goes on asking for more information, and one of the primary information it looks for is the job profile. Now there's something called, as you can make a note of this, it's called as job catalog. Let me open that presentation. Okay, so this is your presentation for jobs and positions. We already understood how this works when we talk about the staffing model, but the core connect between jobs, and I think I have it here, based on this visual which we did yesterday, your primary connect is this, your job profile. And this is important in every organization because you need to have a job catalog to get that done. Now, when I say job catalog, please make a note of that term. Yes. Positions and jobs use job profiles as their foundation, so you need them. Job profiles describe general characteristics of a job or a position. Whether you are using position management or job management, job profile describes your general characteristics. It can be assigned to multiple positions or workers. Now, depending upon if you're using position management, the job profile will be associated directly to the position. If you recall in yesterday's session, what we understood, a position is nothing but a chair, and the cover of that chair is nothing but your job profile. So if you're using position management, it becomes your cover. If you're using job management, then your job itself is nothing but your job profile. You can have one-on-one relationship with positions. For example, you can associate one position with, let's say, CEO, or also like executive assistant. You can have multiple executive assistants. But at one particular time, one job profile will be in place. But let's say that person leaves the organization. You can reuse that position with another job profile. That is the true essence of using position management, that you're using positions to the maximum. We have an activity to create a job profile, which we'll do in a minute. Let's just go over a few more terms. Job category hierarchy, or also called as job catalog. In this, we'll create all these three levels starting from the top: job family group, job family, and job profile. We'll first start by creating job profiles, understand what and how it is done. Then we'll put similar types of job profile. As you can see, HR specialist are put under HR services job family, and benefits analyst is put under HR benefits. And both of these, HR services and HR benefits, are categorized under human resources, which becomes your job family group. So this is what your job catalog looks like. And we'll create a structure like this, but this visual is only for the understanding. There is no structure like this in the system, like we have org charts. There's no job category charts where we can navigate through it, but there are ways we can look into it. Another example of a job catalog for the finance group. So within finance, you have accounting, budget, investment, student financial services. And respective to each job family, you have job profiles in the bottom. So you read it top to down or bottom to up. It should be well connected, and similar job profiles connect to job families. Similar job families are put into the job family group. One thing to note here is you can associate one job profile with multiple job families. For example, let's talk about the leftmost job profile, staff accountant. You can associate staff accountant with job family accounting and also with job family budget. That's possible in the system. But you cannot have, let's say, one accounting job family if it's associated with finance. You cannot use it in another family group. That's how the system has designed. So job catalog is nothing but the cornerstone on the hierarchy of jobs within your organization. We need to categorize them because that helps us in reporting, that helps in analytics, that helps in understanding where the market is shifting. And that's what the primary job of a compensation team is in any organization. They search for the market. what's happening, what are the new profiles coming in, what is our requirement, what should be the salary ranges for them. Like it's a mix of cross-functional teams, not compensation. There are other teams also involved in this. The job catalog, basically, of profiles that we create may include levels, titles, grades, compensation, and ideally an individual job profile within a catalog has all of these elements. You need this. It's a foundation. Why? Because without job profile, you cannot hire people. What will you hire them for? That we are just hiring you. We'll tell you what your job is later. No, it does not work that way, right? This is at the time when you create organizations. In parallel, your job catalog should also be ready. We'll look into this in the system. This is just a snippet from one of the setup. Grade levels is not needed right now. So let's jump right into the tenant. I hope I'm not logged out. So the task, can anyone guess what the task would be if I have to create job profile?
Position.
I'm sorry, what's that? No, my question was what would be the task to create a job profile? And I'm literally answering my own question in my question. I'm just surprised I only got one answer. I was expecting a better response. Okay, so this is how your setup of a job profile looks like. Now, first visualize this when you were hired in any organization. You had a job profile. Why? Because some consultant in the backend added that in the system, which is why the recruiter was able to select it and you were hired for it. Now, once you learn this, you will be skilled enough to create job profiles and understand how they are connected. So we'll follow a naming pattern. Like I'll use this for my job profiles. I'll name it as Velvet Workday Analyst 1. If you want this to be looking differently, when someone get hired, what would be their job title? I don't want to use Velvet there because that's my keyword. I just want to as Workday Analyst. I don't want them to see that, I have a naming pattern because this would be visible to all employees in the organization. Now, as you can see, we don't need a job code. Anywhere it says code Workday, if you don't keep it, Workday automatically creates it for you. As you can see, there's plethora of options. You can restrict at the country level, you can restrict at a management level, job level, family level, category, company, so many options here. But not all applies in every organization. In fact, very, very few applies to most of the organizations. And those are nothing but if your company has stock options, they have plans set up, you can add that here. If your company has a referral plans, which will be set in the compensation, you can use them here. Page got refreshed. Once we have our job families created, we'll see that we can populate them here as well, but we don't have that created. You have a worksheet. If you want to mark this as, you cannot even delete this. Same thing like organization, you cannot delete them, you can only mark them as inactive. So if you no longer need this, you can mark that as inactive. Public job will be applicable if you're using Workday recruiting. So in my use case, I really don't need any of this information. I just need this. But it's good to know what other option means. Pay rate types, depending upon like Singapore has multiple pay rate types versus US, mostly are salaried and hourly. But if you have exempt, non-exempt employees, that would differ. So you can do that. You can define the characteristics of a job profile if your company is very much embedded on analytics and all that. How is the company doing? How is the hiring happening? Let's say you mark this as very difficult to hire. That this particular job profile is something which we have very less consultants or very less skilled employees available in the market. So you'll mark it as very difficult. Ideally, if you're hiring for a CEO, CEOs also change the company. So that would be considered as a very difficult thing. But if it's easy to find, you mark it as easy. Just some metrics which help with, again, I've been saying this word analytics a lot because reporting does do a lot of analytics in any organization, not just Workday. Any other system you use, the senior leaders rely on reports. They don't have time to go into the Workday system and see what's happening. They ask reports from you. Give me the report for this, which shows the data of how many easy job profiles were filled, how many difficult ones were filled, and who filled it. All that information. Work study usually applicable to internships. And if your company has any work study program, you can apply that here. Now, this is important, compensation. Why this is important? Because obviously we'll do compensation in upcoming sessions. But in this case, you will apply the grade here. You will apply the grade profile. We have not touched upon these topics, but please remember that we will come back to this one once we do the compensation. If your company has any unions, you can have that rule set up here as well. And not just limited to this, you have so many other options here also, which you can use to restrict, be more specific on the job profile. Like if you need some set of certifications, let's say, for example, I'll add that I need it for, say, Australia. I need an AWS Cloud Architect certification. One thing to understand is I was able to populate this here is because it was pre-populated in the system, not by Workday, but by some consultant. For example, if I go to education now, okay, I'm looking for, let's say, a master's. Let's say I select advertising. So I'm able to select Master in Science and Advertising because it's pre-populated in the system by some consultant. Workday does not. Workday can provide you with a list of all the education that there is and the catalog that they can provide you with. You can find it on community, but someone has to load it in the system. Then only you can put it here. Even for languages, you want a language. Let's say I need them to speak Arabic. What's their ability? What's the proficiency level on that? Want them to be speaking them at least an intermediate level. So why I was able to add this? Because some consultant added it here. And these are bulk loads, very big data loads that happen, takes good amount of time. And this usually comes under learning and management module of Workday, functional area of Workday. You can add in responsibilities, skills, any trainings that are needed. And not just that, you have so many other options also. Right. So based on this, and let's say for certification, if I mark this as required, that means if I'm hiring someone who does not have this certification, then the profile basically when a candidate, let's say you've done the requisition, you have used this Workday analyst job profile for a particular open rec, people are applying. And in one of that option, make sure because this ties up directly with your recruiting system. Because recruiting system should have an option for candidates to enter this certification. Because putting it here will not help. In your recruiting side, you should have an option open, which says, please list on your certifications. And if this is not one of the certification listed, the profile will automatically be rejected. So you can restrict your job profiles to minute specific details that you need. But we generally don't use them a lot. There are companies which are very specific in hiring, specifically when it comes to industries like biomedical, polytechnic. So these aeronautical, where certification is something you have to be very specific with the skill set. In IT, we can work through, a software developer, a computer science BTech or graduate engineer can work with programming. Also, an electronic graduate can work with programming. But can they work with a biochemical or a biomedical industry? No. You need certain set of education, you need certain skill set to work in that industry. Right. So in that cases, we can use that. Right now, I won't use it, but even if I use it, it will not impact my configuration because the hiring is restricted anyway. And few more options here on the right for job classification. Now, job classification is nothing but a standard set of categorization. Like for US, it's called EEO. I don't know if it's loaded in the system. It was earlier. Yes, it's here. As you can see here, EEO1. This is a standard US table which categorizes your employees in different segments, whether they're executive senior level or they're professionals, as you can see here, or technicians or sales worker or administrative support. Now, EEO refers to equal employment opportunity. I've worked with EEO for the last 3 years, basically the reporting of EEO. EEO is a government mandate reporting for organizations with more than, I think, 500 employees. You have to do a EEO reporting. And this EEO reports not just ask you for classification, it asks you for a lot many things other than that, which is not at all a fun thing to do. So I'll select that this is a professional categorization, and I can add some summary here. So now that I've created this, how will this be used? There are multiple or there's diverse directions. One, we'll use this in job families. The other, we'll use it in positions. Use this now whenever you create position. Yesterday's assignment was to create some positions in your position management or put some hiring restrictions on your job management. Now you can use this job profile. So for example, if I use this, now I can create a position just by going here. Go to the staffing option. Oh, must be job management then. Yeah, this is job management. Let me, for example, if I go here, this is position management. I'd go ahead and create a new position, staffing, create position, give it the reason. Here, I can now use that option. If you notice something, summary and description got populated automatically. And location, we already have locations which we can use for this time type. You already are familiar. We'll go through this page multiple times because as and when we create something new, we'll come back here, create a position and see what new we have changed or what exactly we have added. Right. And if you notice something, easy also came up automatically because we defined it at the job profile. If I would have marked it as a critical job, which is here, this would also be auto-populated. So some of this information flows directly from your job profile. Okay, so I'll submit that. I think there are approvals needed. We'll come to that later. Oh, it's created. Now, as you can see, you have this. Likewise, you have to create 9 different job profiles. Why 9? Because I'll create 3 in today's session. I'll do 1 complete demo. Right now, we've only created the job profile. The next thing that we'll do is we'll create a job family. Give it the date. These are relatively easier. I'll give it the name as Velvet Workday. I'll just mark it as Velvet Workday. And which job profiles we'll add it here? The one that we have created. So now this Velvet Workday Analyst 1, you notice something is part of this job family, which is Velvet Workday. Even if I go here, it's part of this. Then I'll create a family group. It will be called as Velvet HCM. And what family I can include in here is, because this is my family. Now, what's the benefit of doing this? For that, I'll have to create another job profile, which let me copy the name here because. Okay, so I'll create multiple profiles now quickly so that we can see how it makes the difference. In testing, even if you don't add these values, it's okay. Just keep the name. That's more important. Now I'll go back to my job family and I'll edit it. Okay, now this is my top level group. You can see Velvet, though it says job family, but focus here, it says Velvet HCM and this is a job family group. Yes. Within this job family group, you have the family, which is Velvet Worked. And if I open this family, I have these job profiles in it. Now, how does it help if I go again to this organization and I want to do the hiring again? And I'm new to the company and I'm still getting used to how the organization is set up and everything, but I have to do this hire. So I'll go to the related actions, I'll go to staffing, create position. Okay. I'll still name it as Workday Analyst and give some dates. Now, let's say the request that I have is to look for a Workday Analyst, but I really don't know what job profile exists in the system. So I'll search by family. I'll search with Workday Velvet because Workday will give me a lot of options. So as you can see, I have two options here. One, this is job family. The other one is a job family group. So irrespective of select whichever one, it gives me a list of all these job profiles that are there in the system for this category. That's one of the use case of having your job catalog, basically the hierarchy of job profiles. You create it put together in family, those families are put together. Now let's say if I put sales here, observe the difference. Now this sales is nothing but a job family group. So it says job family, but I'm looking at here, there's a job family group, which has these job families, and each of these families will definitely have more profiles in it. So let's say if I select this, you can see all these options, and this is for our own benefit. This is for the recruitment's benefit, whoever is creating the positions. So this is how it helps. And not just this, the better use case to this is if you're creating a report, okay, you want to get one of your leadership has requested a list of all the employees who were hired as sales specialists or any of the sales profiles in the last quarter. So you can quickly create a report, put in a filter, job family is equal to sales. As simple as that. You don't have to list down each of these job profiles in your filters. You can just use this and you will get the desired output you need. So now what you have to do is create, like I said, 9 job profiles and 3 job families and put them all under one family group. That is the assignment. I've only created 3 job profiles. You have to create 9 and be creative with your families, like I've created Velvet HCM as the top, then Velvet Workday, within Workday, I have Workday Analyst. You can create another one with SAP or engineering or research, DevOps, whatever you want to do. It's more for the practice, how to create your job catalog. And if you ask me in the real time how this is created, in the initial implementation, when you transition from legacy to Workday, this is all done through EIB data loads and all that fun stuff. But once your system is all set and you have some new requirements to come in, you don't do this yourself. You connect with the compensation team to understand what name do you want it to be, what other elements in the job profile should be there. Is there any compensation associated? So you need to have all that information. You will be the one creating the job profile for sure. But what information goes in there, you should receive that. So that's the assignment, and that marks completion of the demo for today.